Hi everyone, welcome to AC Always Connected Gut Health 101 with certified health coach Tara Ryan. My name is Michelle and I'm the events officer for the AC Hub at Algonquin College. Whether this is your first AC Always Connected event or your 10th, we're so glad that we can connect with you on this Monday afternoon. AC Always Connected is an online event series that keeps our entire college community connected while we can't be together in person. So before we get started, we just want to ask that you please keep your microphone muted for Tara's talk, but we encourage you to turn on your cameras for some face-to-face time. So to kick off today's event, we'd like to ask everyone to please open the chat tab at the bottom of your screen. And I'm going to ask everyone a question, and we ask that you please type out the answer to the question in the chat tab, but don't press send until everyone's had a chance to answer the question. So the question is, if you could eliminate one thing from your daily routine, what would it be? So don't press send yet. I'll just give everyone a few seconds to type out your answer. Okay, so I'm going to count down. In a second, I'm just typing out my answer. Okay, so in 3, 2, 1, send your answers. So cleaning sounds like a common one, and cooking. Perfect, thank you so much everyone. Now feel free to continue to use this chat throughout Tara's talk. And then there will be, if you have questions along the way, feel free to type out your question, but we will have an opportunity at the end of Tara's talk for question and answer. Perfect, so now without further ado, I am pleased to introduce Tara Ryan. As mentioned earlier, Tara is a certified health coach, and her goal is to take away the overwhelming feeling of making healthy changes and to show clients that being healthy doesn't have to be hard. Tara helps clients master the mindset of healthy living by exploring the daily habits that might be holding you back. So we are pleased to have Tara join us today.
Thank you and welcome. Thank you to Algonquin College for having me in to speak today. And thank you, of course, to you at home. I know that we're all kind of trapped at home at the moment, but there's always a million and one other things you could be doing, like cleaning. So I truly appreciate your time. And I hope that I can share stuff with you today that you can take with you to improve your own health. So what I'm going to be talking about today is gut health, of course, and I wanted to, it's a diverse topic, but I've broken it down into 4 sections, and I thought I'd begin by explaining why gut health is so important. You've likely tuned in today because you've heard so much hype about gut health, but you likely are unsure as to why. So I'll begin by demystifying that for you and explaining why gut health has gained such popularity. And the thing affecting our gut health the most is what we're eating and not eating. So then I'm going to go into the foods that are really beneficial to gut health, as well as the foods that you'll want to try and steer clear from, or at least limit because they can be very damaging to your gut. And while food is the major thing contributing to the health of your gut, there are also lifestyle factors that contribute as well. So I'm going to go through certain lifestyle factors that you can work on that can help to improve your gut health. And finally, if there's time, I will touch upon some supplements that you can include in your diet that just help to promote that healthy gut as well. All right, so I think, oh, and before I go on, I've created a PDF for you that you can easily download. I believe the link for it will be in the chat room. So I've done that for a couple of reasons. One, so you don't have to worry about taking notes throughout the session. There's going to be a lot of information, so you can just sit back and really try and soak it in. And then 2, it's always good to be able to go back and kind of reread stuff that we've learned, especially if this is the first time you're being exposed to information about gut health. So I hope that you'll take advantage of that. There's lots of great tips in there and clickable links for, products that I use and I recommend. So I hope that that's helpful to you. Okay, I thought I'd begin by briefly telling you a little bit about my story into health and my journey and how gut health has really sort of improved and helped my own life. My journey into health begins with, as a little girl, feeling fat. I wish it was something more profound, but from a very young age, I struggled with my weight and body image issues. I was about 8 or 10 at the time when I first remember it being an issue for me. We were at the doctor. My mom had taken me to the doctor, and in front of me, he was discussing ways with my mother about how to bring my weight down. And so just witnessing that conversation, I remember thinking, okay, this is something maybe that I need to be, that's important. And I remember the next morning and with my cereal with skim milk instead of 2% milk. And I remember just feeling, a little funny about that. And, as years went on, whether it was comments from children at school or extended family members, or the fact that my sister and my cousins were stick thin and I wasn't, I quickly internalized that my weight was important, and it became sort of an obsession of mine. As a result, I was always on the latest fad diet. I was always comparing myself to my friends and to girls in magazines. I was always counting my fat and calories. And at the end of the day, I'd go to bed and I'd literally go through everything I'd eaten that day and then deem that day either a good day or a bad day. And by default, either I was good or bad. And there was this one question that perpetually ran through my mind, and that was, what can I do to be skinny? All I want is to be skinny. And I didn't know what the answer was. I thought I had tried everything. I thought that nothing worked. I thought that I had failed at every diet I'd ever tried. I was convinced the problem was me and that I would never be happy. When I was 25, my father was diagnosed with esophageal cancer and given 4 months to live. I was incredibly close to my father, and this was devastating news. My mother had a very good friend whose son was very much into health. And so when he heard of my father's illness, he suggested all of these things we could do through diet and supplementation to cure my father's cancer. Now I bring this up because up until that point in my life, I was very aware that what I ate affected my weight, but I had never kind of been exposed to the idea that what I ate could affect my long-term health and or prevent or cure disease. So that, planted a seed in my mind. Unfortunately for my father, it was esophageal cancer, which made it very difficult for him to swallow anything. And 4.5 months later, he did pass away. Still chokes me up a little bit. I was living with my mom at the time, and she recognized that I was having a very, very difficult time with his passing. And so she set me up, sent me to a therapist, said, I'm sending you, you need to go. I said, fine, I'll go to one. And that one therapist session turned into years of therapy, which I am incredibly grateful for. While the therapist did help me through my grief, majority of my years with her were spent dealing with my weight and body image issues. During that time, I came across a book called Skinny Bitch. Now, even though I was working on my issues, I was still desperate to be skinny, and the title of the book caught my eye. And I was pretty sure I was willing to be a bitch if it meant I could be skinny. So I picked up that book, and it really did change the course of my life. If you're familiar with that book, you know that it has nothing to do with getting skinny quick and everything to do with eating for your health and the health of the environment. Now, it was intriguing to me for 2 reasons. One, because I had just lost my father. So the idea of eating for prolonged health was really appealing to me. And also the environment. I love nature. I've always been big into the environment. So the idea that what I ate would also affect the health of the environment, these 2 ideas were incredibly profound to me. And this led me to the Thrive diet, the crazy sexy diet, the Omnivore's Dilemma, just really never picking up another book again that didn't have something to do with health and nutrition. And the more I read, the more I made these small changes to my diet, and the more I started realizing all of these things that I hadn't even associated with what I was eating were starting to go away. So for example, I was chronically bloated. I mean, like after every single meal, I describe it as somebody being on the inside of my stomach, pushing out. My stomach was distended, very, very gassy, and often just in a lot of pain after eating. I was chronically constipated. My regular was going once every 3 to 4 days, and I was chugging Metamucil, like it was going out of style, and that was the most I could go. I was depressed, and I was on antidepressants. I had urinary tract infections every other month. They were so reoccurrent that they had actually sent me to go, to go see, to be tested to make sure there wasn't a tumor growing. And as a result, I was on them so much, or getting them so often, that I was on antibiotics 6 times a year, I'm sorry. Then I had Tinea Versicolor, which, if you're unfamiliar, is a fungal rash of the skin. So I had a rash all over my chest and back that would go away when I used the topical cream that the doctor prescribed. But once the cream was finished, then the rash came back. So it was clearly not addressing the root of the issue. And finally, I was so tired. I suffered from severe fatigue. I mean, this was pre-kids, and I was sleeping 12 to 13 hours a day, and just chronically tired. So all of these things, the more I changed the way I ate, just went away. Like they've never, and of course my weight finally was becoming a non-issue. So I never looked back. And this true passion and discovery of the power of food, and wanting to share this information with everyone I met. I'm sure for a while their family members were running from me at family get-togethers. So I was so passionate about it. And when my oldest son, when I was on mat leave with my oldest son, I went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, where I learned and studied to become a health coach. And now I get to do what I love, and that is to share information that can hopefully help you. I really hope that you can take something away today to implement into your own life, and begin your journey of wellness. All right, so I'm going to begin with explaining why gut health. Okay, so why is the gut so important for overall health? I think we need to begin by rethinking the way we think about medicine. When doctors are in medical school, they often specialize. And as a result, if you have something with a difficulty with your heart, you go to a cardiologist. If you have difficulty with your feet, you go to a podiatrist, skin, dermatologist. And so we've begun this idea of separating the body and thinking of and dealing with the body in separate entities. But the body doesn't work that way. The body works all together, and it's all interconnected. So that's the first thing. We got to kind of change that thought in our mind. And what scientists are discovering is that within this whole body interconnectedness, there is a ringmaster. And that ringmaster controls your digestion, your immune system, your brain function, even your happiness. And that is the gut. The gut is sort of in control or directly influences all of these things. So the reason for that is because inside your gut are trillions of living organisms. And these are referred to many different ways. It can be referred to as your microbiome, as gut flora, or as I'll refer to it today, just so we're very clear, good bacteria and bad bacteria. So we'll begin with the good bacteria. And the good bacteria in your gut are responsible for a multitude of functions. The first of which is your digestion. So if you remember my story, all of the issues I had with my digestion, I was bloated, I was gassy, I was constipated. Even my fatigue can be associated with poor digestion. When you're not digesting your food properly, a lot of your energy stores are put towards digesting because it's such a huge task, and that can cause severe fatigue. So your gut bacteria, the healthy gut bacteria, ensures healthy digestion because it helps us to absorb the nutrients in our food. So the healthy bacteria, they produce enzymes that help to break down your food that you need to break down your food properly. And they even digest some of the food for us. So alleviating some of that extra work for us. And finally, there's even vitamins and minerals that require good bacteria to pre-digest them before we can even absorb them. So you could be eating healthy foods with healthy nutrients in them. For example, B vitamins are one of the ones that need to be pre-digested. But if you don't have enough healthy gut bacteria, you're not even being able to absorb those vitamins and minerals, which then can lead to vitamin and mineral deficiencies. So incredibly important just for digestion alone. The second way that the good bacteria in your gut help you is your immune system. So 80% of your immune system, in fact, is located in your large intestine. Or your digestive tract, I'm sorry. And so it's not a far stretch then to realize that your gut bacteria or your gut is going to influence a system that is located within it. And what the good bacteria does in your gut is it regulates your immune response. So the mere presence of good bacteria in the gut signals to your immune system that everything is working well and that, things can remain calm. And what we get into trouble with our health when our immune system starts firing off at every little thing, which creates inflammation within the body. And the good bacteria kind of calms the immune system and allows it to respond only when necessary. A third way that the good bacteria in your gut is helping to promote overall health is it prevents the growth and presence of the bad bacteria. So you're always going to have both good and bad bacteria in your gut. That's normal, but the trick is to keep a healthy balance, and you want more good than bad. And one of the things the good bacteria does is it just does not let the bad bacteria grow. So competition for space and nutrients in your gut is a huge hurdle for bad bacteria to overcome, and they simply will not achieve it if there's enough good bacteria to fight them off. So very important. The fourth way that good bacteria really help to support overall health is in detoxing, helping to detox your body. So the good bacteria is responsible for ridding the body of 40% of the toxins found in our food. Now, if you don't have enough good bacteria doing that for you, that job falls then to the liver, which is our main detoxing organ. But as you can imagine, the liver has a huge job already. So if we don't have enough good bacteria, we're almost doubling the workload of our liver, which then has, repercussions of its own. The next way gut bacteria really influences overall health and wellness is your metabolism and your ability to lose or gain weight. So I believe in my own journey, this was very significant. What they're finding is that in obese people and lean people have very different gut bacteria. So lean, as you can imagine, have more of the healthy gut bacteria, and obese people have more of the sort of bad or negative gut bacteria. And the type of bacteria you have in your gut is influencing your digestion, which I mentioned before, but it's also influencing how your fat is stored and how hungry or full you'll feel. Which directly influences if you will lose or gain weight. There's been interesting studies done on mice where they've taken the gut bacteria out of obese mice and put it into lean mice. And in a very short amount of time, those lean mice begin overeating by 10% and become insulin resistant. And then the reverse is also true. When they took the gut bacteria of lean mice, put it in obese mice, the obese mice in turn became leaner. So just very interesting in its role on in losing or gaining weight. And finally, and arguably the most important way that gut bacteria influences our overall health is the direct impact it has on the functioning of our brain. So the gut and the brain are very intimately connected. So a good way to explain this, I find, is if you're excited about something or you're nervous about something, you might feel that in your gut. You might feel it as butterflies. Or if you're a chronic worrier like me, when it comes to my kids, I'm such a worrier. And sometimes that can feel like a punch in the gut if I think of something terrifying. And that's just, you're having a physical reaction in the gut just from a thought in your head. So that shows the brain-gut reaction, but it also goes the other way. Your gut influences the functioning of your brain. So one example of this is serotonin, which you may be familiar with, the neurotransmitter that is responsible for the feelings of pleasure and happiness. 70 to 90% of your serotonin is actually created in your gut. So if you're not creating enough of it and it's not being sent to the brain, you may experience anxiety or depression. And so they are discovering that by altering the gut bacteria, it can have significant impacts on brain health. They're also making advances in connections on gut bacteria and more significant or more, brain diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and multiple sclerosis. Now, if those are interesting topics for you, I highly recommend these two books. So Genius Foods and Brain Maker. They're both deal with how the gut and the brain are connected, and very, very, very interesting. Okay, so that's the good bacteria. It's responsible, again, just as a recap, your digestion, how effectively you digest food and absorb nutrients, your immune system and how well and efficiently it will respond, the prevention of bad bacteria overgrowing in your gut, detoxing the toxins out of your body, your ability to metabolize and to lose or gain weight, and finally, brain health. So now let's talk a little bit about the bad bacteria. So the bad bacteria, as you can imagine, are the ones that are responsible for disease. They produce infection within the body, and when there are enough of them, they can irritate the gut lining enough that they penetrate and go into the bloodstream, where they wreak havoc in the body. So this penetrating and breaking down of the intestinal wall is called leaky gut. Now, you may be familiar, have heard of the term leaky gut before, and essentially what it is, think of your intestinal wall, the wall to your gut, as a screen door and how tiny those little holes are. Now, the reason for that is only then properly digested food will get through that gut lining, makes its way to your bloodstream, where your body then absorbs the nutrients in your food and uses it as fuel. But if you have too much bad bacteria, or you're eating foods that irritate that gut lining, which I'll get into what those are in a little bit, it's like taking scissors to the screen door of your gut lining. And now, as you can imagine, huge particles of food are getting through, as are the bad bacteria. And what this does is it signals to the immune system that there's an invader, and you go and inflammation results. Now, inflammation is a normal response to an invader, but the trouble with food-related, inflammation triggers, if you're not treating it, and 3 times a day you're eating food and things are getting into the bloodstream that are irritating and causing the immune system to turn on, essentially it's never being turned off, and your body then goes into a state of what's called systemic or chronic inflammation. Now, systemic and chronic inflammation has been identified as the precursor to major diseases such as cancer, heart disease, autoimmune diseases, depression, and arthritis. And so it's said then that the precursor to those major diseases is inflammation, but as I just explained, what comes before inflammation is gut dysfunction. So if we can treat the gut, and if we can heal our gut, we can potentially eliminate disease at the root. Now, it's not just the chronic diseases that are influenced by the gut bacteria, but it's also mild symptoms as well, many of which I experienced, like skin rashes, eczema, fatigue, allergies, mood swings, anxiety, mild depression, digestive problems such as bloating, constipation, and more. They've all been linked to this imbalance of gut flora, or gut bacteria, I'm sorry. So the question then is, what causes an overgrowth of these bad negative bacteria, and how can we promote the growth of the healthy bacteria? So both bacteria have foods and favorite conditions under which they thrive. Now, unfortunately, our modern day diet, which is very fast paced, very stressful, consists of lots of packaged foods, high in sugar. This is the perfect breeding ground for bad bacteria, which is why we're seeing so many more people with these types of issues. So the trick then becomes to create an environment under which the good bacteria in your gut thrive and the bad bacteria die off. So one of the ways we do that, as I mentioned, is through food. So I'm going to begin with the healthy or the good foods that you can try incorporating into your diet to help to promote the good bacteria growth in your gut. So the first one I always encourage my clients to eat or to start incorporating is fermented or probiotic foods. So these are foods that actually contain the good bacteria I'm talking about. There's no better way to colonize your gut with healthy bacteria than by actually eating the foods that contain these bacteria. My favorite one is sauerkraut. I thought I'd show you just so you, in case you're unfamiliar what it looks like. You can get this at Loblaws, you can get it at Whole Foods. There's lots of different flavors. But yeah, so sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha, which is getting very popular now, miso, which is a fermented soybean paste, tempeh, kefir, which is a fermented yogurt. Now, a note on yogurt, just you need to be mindful. Often, like Activa comes to mind. They promote themselves as this probiotic yogurt. However, the amount of chemicals and sugar in that yogurt completely nullifies the probiotic effect. So you want to look for a full-fat, unsweetened yogurt or kefir when you're shopping for yogurt. Again, this is information's all in my handout. So if you're like, oh, I don't remember what she said, it's all there for you. The next food I would encourage you to incorporate are prebiotic foods. Now, if you remember, I said that bad bacteria love sugar and preservatives. Good bacteria love prebiotic fiber. Now, this is just fiber that's like indigestible fiber that it feeds on. So it allows the good bacteria in your gut to multiply and to thrive. These include garlic, onion, jicama, leeks, asparagus, raw banana, or underripe banana. And you can also supplement with a prebiotic too. You need to eat most of these foods raw in order to get their good gut benefits. So that can be challenging in the beginning, but any food that has a lot of fiber in it is going to be beneficial to your gut. So I often too try and help people rethink, I think we've been conditioned to think, looking at our meal, okay, where am I getting my protein? And I encourage you to now look at your plate. Protein is definitely important. I'm not saying that, but where's my fiber? Like, do I have enough fiber on my plate? Your body really needs fiber. And most people, that's what they're lacking. They're not getting enough fiber. So the next thing I would encourage you to also include are green vegetables. So specifically leafy greens. I know we're all sick of hearing eat your vegetables, but it's so true. And there's really no better foods out there. They're highly detoxifying, they are nutrient dense, and they're energy boosting. So these include spinach, kale, collard greens, Swiss chard, bok choy, arugula, even some herbs. So just really trying to incorporate and circle those through your grocery, trying a new one each time, and just exposing yourself a little bit more to dark leafy greens. Another really great food for your gut is collagen-rich foods or supplements. So as I was explaining before about that screen door of your gut lining, one of the goals in gut health is to maintain the integrity of that gut lining. And collagen, which is the main protein in our body, is one of the main building blocks of this gut lining. So supplementing with it helps to keep it strong and helps to keep it intact, allowing only properly digested food to get through. So foods that contain collagen are bone broth, spirulina, cod, eggs, and I'm forgetting one. But anyway, there's also lots of supplements now. I enjoy, there's lots of even fruity ones you can just mix with water and drink. They're delicious, and it's got other benefits as well. But for your joints, your hair, your skin, your nails. So collagen's a great thing to include as well. The next thing I would really encourage you to try and incorporate, and this is by far from novel, but drinking lots of water and filtered water. So unfortunately, most of our tap water today is filled with chlorine and fluoride and other toxic chemicals. And so those are killing the good bacteria in your gut. So something as simple as a Brita filter, or there's more complex ones that you can have installed under your sink, but I would really encourage you to try and start filtering your water. The more we can eliminate these toxins from our diet and sort of every aspect, the more we we can help the good gut bacteria to just continue to grow. The other thing is your gut is a very water-rich environment. And when you're dehydrated, the first place that dries up is your large intestine, making your stools very dry and very difficult to pass. So clearly I was not drinking enough water back in the day, and I really encourage you to drink up. A good rule of thumb is divide your body weight in half, and that's the number of ounces of water you should be drinking each day. The next thing I would suggest is trying to include good fats in your diet as well. So I think we're all still scarred from like the fat scare of the 90s, but really healthy fats are crucial to absorbing nutrients. They help to draw the nutrients out from your food, which allows you to feel fuller for longer. And they're also one of those things that help to maintain the integrity of your gut lining. So really important to include those in your diet. Those include extra virgin olive oil, avocados, avocado oil, coconut meat, MCT oil, flax seeds and flaxseed oil, and all nuts and seeds. Omega-3 oils as well are incredibly healthy and great for your gut. The last two things I would try and include in your diet is organic produce. So organic's not just a trendy sort of fad. It really is crucial for a healthy gut and a healthy environment. All of the chemicals and pesticides that get sprayed all over our conventional produce are killing our good gut bacteria and making it very difficult for people to have a healthy gut. I've included in the handout as well the link to the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. Now, if buying organic, I know it can be more pricey, so if buying all organic food is it's too much, in the Clean 15 is a list of the produce that has the least amount of pesticide residues on it. So, I encourage you to buy those conventional produce. And then the Dirty Dozen, of course, are the ones that have, even after being washed, or still have high amounts of pesticides on them. So buying those in organic would be very beneficial. And finally, I'd encourage you to do the same with meat. So, factory farming, in my opinion, is so horrifying for so many reasons, but one of which is the amount of drugs and antibiotics and hormones that are being given to these animals. And if we are eating those animals, we are eating what they've been given, meaning that we are eating all those drugs and hormones and antibiotics. And of course, then once in the gut, they are killing off our good bacteria. So I encourage you to look for organic, grass-fed, or pasture-raised meat. You can also, I've given you the links to the two of the farms that I order our meat off of. If you're in and around Ottawa, they're great farms with great farming practices, pesticide, chemical-free. So I encourage you to look for a farmer as well, is a great option. So those are the good things you want to try and include and do in your diet. Now we'll move into the ones that you want to try and steer clear from as much as possible. Like nothing is absolute. I'm not an advocate of saying never, 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 because I think that just breeds sort of, I think the thing we deny is the thing we crave. So keep in mind with these, it's just trying to limit them or keep them for, like a weekend treat as opposed to an everyday staple. So the first thing I would suggest or encourage you to look to avoid are refined vegetable oils and hydrogenated oils specifically. These are one of the most inflammatory foods on the planet. And if you remember, inflammation leads to all sorts of disease. So one of the reasons for this is they're they process these oils at such high heats, making them very unstable. And when an oil is unstable, it becomes inflammatory once ingested. And also, as you can imagine, it's hard to get oil from a plant often. So they're using bleach and deodorizers and dewaxers and all kinds of things that the residues of these chemicals are ending up in the oil as well, which then is very harmful to your gut. So the main ones you want to be on the lookout for are corn oil, soybean oil, canola oil, and cottonseed oil. Now, of course, I'm encouraging not to buy these in their whole form, but the thing is, these oils are also very cheap. So they're used in a lot of packaged foods. So just be mindful of that when you're buying a packaged food, and just read the ingredients and make sure they're not using those oils in those foods. The next thing I would suggest that just limiting or eliminating altogether would be wheat and gluten. Now, I really didn't want this one to be true, but there is something to the gluten-free fad after all. So the thing with wheat is the bad bacteria loves wheat. So it feeds off wheat and it allows that bad bacteria to kind of grow and multiply in your gut. But gluten itself is actually very irritating to the gut wall. It's one of the things that takes scissors to our gut wall, allowing, bigger food particles to get through, causing inflammation. So I am not I'm not gluten-free, but I save it. I have it on the weekend as a treat or when I'm out to dinner, but I don't eat it every day, 3 times a day. And I just encourage people to try and look for places within their day where they could kind of eliminate something that has gluten in it and replace it with something else. The next one, not surprisingly, is sugar, white sugar. White sugar, again, bad bacteria love to feed off of it. It not only that, sugar, I always like to give a few more reasons why to try and kick white sugar, because it's just so detrimental to our health. But, it makes you age faster. It dulls your skin. It's highly addictive. Sugar is what makes and keeps you fat. It's healthy fats that keep us, healthy and thin. So you don't have to be scared of healthy fat. It's really sugar we need to be scared of. So I encourage you to use instead stevia or raw honey, real maple syrup, or coconut palm sugar. All great options to put in coffee or tea or baking. The next food group, if we can call it that, would be processed foods. So I try and limit your amount of processed foods. I understand we all need to rely on them sometimes. So processed food is anything that comes in a bag, a bottle, a jar, a box. And the food industry calls them preservatives, but essentially what they're doing is they're putting antibiotics in these foods that kill off the fungus and bacteria that would otherwise shorten the shelf life of these foods. So of course, once we consume them, it's killing off the bacteria in our gut as well. So really trying to just be, sort of a detective when you're buying packaged foods, reading the ingredients in there, making sure you understand the food that's in there, and it's not just chemicals, and then just trying to not rely on them maybe every day, and to just, try and slowly work them out of your everyday diet. The last 2 things I would suggest just being mindful of. The first one, conventional dairy, so cow's milk dairy, for a few reasons. So dairy itself is very inflammatory, and the amount, just like with conventional meat, dairy has lots of hormones and antibiotics and drugs that have been given to the cow are present in the milk. And finally, because dairy is pasteurized at such a high heat, it renders the dairy sterile, which makes it very, very difficult to digest. And so people have a lot of issues digesting dairy, which makes it very hard on the gut and irritating to that gut lining. And finally, I'm not going to be popular with this one, but limiting your alcohol consumption. So generally speaking, alcohol has a negative effect on your gut bacteria. But red wine, the polyphenol content in red wine has been shown to be beneficial to good gut bacteria. So if you can limit your wine consumption to 1 glass a day and ideally look for organic red wine, that has been said to be okay. So that's a bonus. So as I mentioned in the beginning, there's also lifestyle factors that you can incorporate. So it's not just the food, it's also lifestyle. So some of the lifestyle things you can do to help manage your gut bacteria. The first one I would suggest is managing your stress. So stress has such a harmful effect on our whole body, and the gut is no exception. It alters the bacteria in your gut, meaning it kills off the good bacteria and keeps the bad bacteria. And so finding time each day to just do something that just really calms you, whether that's meditation or a walk or a bubble bath, whatever it is, just finding, 20 minutes a day to just calm, and feeling calm, like knowing it in your body that your whole body's just slowed down is really, really important. And I know it's really hard to do. It's a struggle of mine, but it is so important. The next one, not surprisingly, is exercise. Exercise, of course, is great for, all-around health. But what they're finding too is that the more you exercise, the more diverse your gut bacteria is. So it's not only do you want lots of healthy bacteria, but you want a diverse range of healthy bacteria. And what exercise does is it makes your gut bacteria more diversified. So you have lots of different strains of good bacteria. Another thing you can do lifestyle wise is using natural products. So natural, so you want to avoid toxins as much as possible. And toxins come in anything from, beauty care products to cleaning products to soaps and creams and hand sanitizers. So all of these things have so many chemicals and toxins in them. And I'm sure you guessed by now that all of those things are contributing to the dying off of our healthy bacteria. So you want to look for natural care products. I found this a struggle when I first got into, my journey of health, because I didn't understand what was on the ingredient label of these things. I didn't know if they were healthy or not. So I've included for you my favorite brands that I use in that handout that I created. And so I'm just trying to, finish off the products you have, but the next time you go to buy, cleaning supplies, you buy the natural care products and just expose your body less to these toxins. You want to try to use, this one might be a little surprising, but ibuprofen, so Advil and Aleve, they're realizing that those ibuprofen's very damaging to the gut lining. So only reach for Advil when you absolutely need it, and maybe try addressing the root cause of your pain. And so, for example, most people go for ibuprofen when they have a headache. So first ask yourself, okay, have I had enough water? Did I have too much sugar? Did I not get enough sleep? And maybe try and address that first before reaching for Advil or Aleve. Another thing is taking antibiotics only when they're absolutely necessary. So again, back when I was taking, I was on antibiotics every other month because of my urinary tract infections. But what that was doing was completely wiping my gut out every time of the bacteria in my gut. So of course I had difficulty, digesting food and all of these things. So only taking it, I understand they're necessary sometimes, but only taking it when you absolutely need to. And another thing you can do is really chewing your food. Now, this might sound silly, but a lot of us are chewing 2 to 3 times and swallowing, and that's making a huge, it's asking your gut to do so much breaking down of this food. Now, digestion really begins in the mouth. The more you chew, the more digestive enzymes you secrete, which help to break down your food. So trying to chew your food until it's mush and then swallow it. And you'll not only eat less, which is also great for gut health in the sense that, picture trying to do laundry with a full load. Nothing really gets clean. And so think of your gut the same way. You don't want to eat until you're bursting full. So really, really chewing your food will help with your digestion. And finally, you may have started to see items popping up that are labeled as sprouted. Now, all this means is they've been soaked and dried to eliminate the gut-busting enzymes that are present in these foods. So so I'll just show you what it looks like. But so you'll see stuff that says sprouted on it. And that's what that means. They've prepared it in a way that's going to be much easier for your body to digest and to absorb the nutrients in those foods. So those would be my tips for lifestyle. And then I think we have time for the supplements. So the supplements I would recommend if you wanted to further aid in the promotion of growth of the good bacteria in your gut, I would encourage you to include a probiotic. So because of all the things I mentioned before, like stress and chlorinated water, antibiotics, chemicals in our food, chemicals in our air, these all present challenges to maintaining good gut bacteria. And so increasing the amount of probiotics you take through supplementation can be very beneficial and help you to deal with these everyday stressors. It's also good to cycle through your probiotics and choose new ones. So I have about 2 or 3 that I go through and then just change them up each month so that you're getting a variety of strains of healthy bacteria. The second supplement it's just something to think about. Are prebiotics. So prebiotics, again, are those dietary fibers I mentioned that your good bacteria love to eat and allow them to grow and flourish in your gut. A lot of the top prebiotic foods, as I mentioned, need to be consumed raw, and this can present a challenge for some people. So you can include prebiotic supplements as powders and get them that way. Digestive enzymes are another thing that can help. If you find you're having if you were like me and you have a difficult time digesting your food, digestive enzymes can be very beneficial. They just add to the digestive enzymes already present in your gut and in your saliva, just helping you to further and better break down your food and absorb those nutrients. And you would just want to begin probably by taking one digestive enzyme with each meal. I would do that for maybe about a month, and then slowly going down to maybe just lunch and dinner, and then just dinner, and then kind of see how you feel. L-glutamine is an amino acid that's really key for healing leaky gut and boosting nutrient absorption. So that would be something you would want to look into if you suspect you may have leaky gut. It helps to restore gut permeability. Licorice root is something, so it can be very soothing. It's a very soothing supplement that helps to balance the cortisol levels, so if you feel like some of your gut related issues are just when you're stressed, you can really feel it in your gut. This can be very soothing. This is just a chewable tablet that you take. The next one would be magnesium. Magnesium is really calming for your nerves, muscles, and insides. So it can help to relieve constipation in a very gentle way. And it's often lacking in most people's diets just due to farming practices and the foods we're eating today. So magnesium would be something I suggest most people take anyway, but it's great for gut health as well. And the last 2 would be omega-3 oils or supplements. It's considered the most potent anti-inflammatory out there, naturally speaking. And so it's, any omega-3 oil. And it's incredibly, it helps to reduce inflammation and improve your brain function. So very important supplement there. And then the last one would be vitamin D3, which has far-reaching effects, especially on the brain, but also it helps to increase your energy and immunity. And again, most people are not getting enough D3. Even I've heard it joked about, like, even if you're a nudist living by the equator, you're likely not getting enough D3. So supplementing with D3 is very, very important for overall health. So that's it for me. I really hope that there's something, you've been able to take away something today that you can use, and just keeping in mind that, there's going to be lots of people with lots of opinions about what you should do or how you should take control of your health, but really nothing is more important or more powerful than your own experience. So I would suggest what stuck with you from today that you heard that you want to try and incorporate, and then start there and start with one simple change, and then you can go back to the handout and try another one when you feel really comfortable and with the first change that you've tried. So I hope that that's helpful for you. And thank you again for your time. I really appreciated being here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tara. That was awesome. It was very informative. We do just have a question about the guide that in the link that you sent.
Yep.
I think it was the holiday guide.
Oh no, it's okay. I'll send you, hang on one sec. I had sent, 1 second.
If I was on your website too, it looks like there's a few there. Like if.
Okay, hang on. It should be, it's coming up on mine. So hang on, I'll put it in the chat room and see if that works.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. Sorry about that.
If you click on the heading Tara Ryan Health, that takes you to the page and the resources are there, and then the super guide's in that from the link that's provided to us.
Okay.
Found it.
Okay, so there, and then there's that one. The one I just, here, let me just see if that works. Yes, that should work. So the one I just put in is a bit more updated guide. It just has more links to things that you can use as well. But yes, either work.
Okay. Sorry, did you just add it to the?
I just added it to the chat there. Yeah, you can click on that, I think. Do you see it, or?
I don't see it on mine. I don't know if.
Okay. Oh, I maybe I sent it to Darlene, somebody by mistake. Okay, so how do I do it? How do I do? Okay, maybe if I do it to.
If you click everyone, like do the drop down and then.
Oh, everyone, gotcha. Okay. There we go.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I can see that now.
Okay, perfect.
And then, no worries. No, that's awesome. And if anyone, we're going to open it up for a Q&A. If anyone has a question, you can feel free to just type out in the chat, or you can raise your hand and ask your question live. I just have a question just to maybe kick it off. Do you have any, or like, what are your thoughts on intermittent fasting? You know, that's kind of like a trend right now.
Yeah, I think so. I think it can be really beneficial for people. I think it's great to give at least a 12-hour break to your digestive system. Intermittent fasting is more, I believe, 18 hours, which can be quite a long break for a lot of people, but really trying to at least, mentally take note, when's the last time I eat at night, and then try not to eat for another 12 hours at least. This really gives, your body has so many functions that it actually does while you're sleeping, of detoxing and cleansing. And if it's busy digesting food, it doesn't get to doing those other things. Specifically in your brain, there's a lot of cleansing that happens in your brain at night. So trying to stop eating ideally 3 hours before bed, and then try not to eat again for another 12 hours would be my. And if you can go longer is great. Like, there are a lot of benefits to the intermittent fasting. I just find if it's not something you can maintain long term, you get into that whole fad, trendy diet thing where I find I try to encourage people to do something that they can maintain. So that's kind of what I would suggest.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's a question from Henrik. What would you recommend to eat? So do you have any top foods that you would?
Yeah, so I kind of build my plate kind of based on, so I include a protein. So I start with a protein. What is my protein going to be? And then I always make sure I include 2 types of fiber. So I always have a green veggie in there, and then usually other vegetables. I have a bit of sauerkraut on the side, and then a healthy fat. So I have the protein, 2 types of vegetables, one of them being green, fermented foods such as sauerkraut, and then make sure it's a healthy fat. So either add a half an avocado or drizzle it with olive oil. And those are very balanced meals, easily digestible, and you're getting everything you need, really. So I would do, that's kind of a dinner meal, or lunch.
Thank you.
No
Tamara has a question. What are some good alternatives for gluten? Are there good low gluten items that might be better?
Okay, so yes, great question. So a lot of the gluten-free products out there they're not great because they have a lot of additives and preservatives in them. What I always suggest is try just looking for naturally free, gluten-free foods. So beans and lentils and quinoa, things like that. And then if you want to still consume gluten, but in a better form, the bread we eat is, the name is Ezekiel, and it's Ezekiel sprouted grain bread. So they don't just use so there's it's made out of a bunch of different grains and even lentils and beans in there. So it's much easier on your body to digest. It's a much healthier gluten option for you. So it's called Ezekiel sprouted grain.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so Amanda has a question. Any suggestions for resources to help support those with Crohn's?
Unfortunately, I don't know a ton about Crohn's, unfortunately. So I can't, I feel comfortable suggesting anything there because it'd be just me guessing. So I apologize about that. I don't know.
Okay, I think that's it for questions. There was one more about your typical meal would be, but I think you touched on that with the 5.
Yeah.
Questions. Oh, sorry, there's a few more. Is boiling your water the same as using a filter?
I don't believe so. That's a great question. I want to say no. I don't think it would get rid of certain bacteria, but it wouldn't get rid of the chemicals like the chlorine and the fluoride. I don't believe it gets rid of those. But it would get rid of any like bacteria or parasites that would be in the water, but it doesn't get rid of the chemicals.
And now Tamara has a question. What good stores in Ottawa when going towards this diet? Do you have any
So I mean, I love Whole Foods. I know Whole Foods can be pricey though. But Farm Boy has a great selection of organic produce. That's where I do my produce shopping most of the time. And even Loblaws now in their natural food section has a lot of great options for like sprouted things and sauerkraut and that kind of thing. Oh, and this, I wanted to show you guys. This is what jicama looks like. Like a lot of people aren't familiar with jicama, and this is one of the best prebiotic foods. Now, I just peel this and eat it raw. It kind of tastes like pear, but it's really, really good for promoting the growth of good bacteria in your gut. And I think, you know, most people don't know what to look for when I say jicama. So this is what it looks like. You just peel it and chop it up and you eat it raw. But you can find that at Loblaws. You can find that at Farm Boy and Whole Foods. Like a lot of places now are getting a lot more diverse in what they're offering health food wise, which is really great to see. So.
Perfect, thank you. And is spelt flour a good alternative?
Yes, spelt is one of the ones I use. So what's the problem with wheat flour is it's been hybridized, which is similar to GMO. So it's been, because a lot of people ask me, well, why is gluten so bad now? And why 50 years ago were people able to eat gluten? What they started to do was they were hybridizing wheat to make it more fluffy and less grain-like. But as a result, now wheat has double the gluten it used to, which is why it's so difficult to digest. Spelt is an ancient grain and it has not been hybridized. So it still has a lot of the nutrients available in it. And you can buy spelt flour, a sprouted spelt flour, which is even better. I buy that either online, and I've put a link to that where I buy that in my handout, but you can also buy it at Whole Foods as well. So I use sprouted spelt flour in a lot of my baking. It's one of my favorite go-to.
Thank you. Are there any probiotic supplements you would recommend?
Yes, I've put the ones I would recommend again in that handout if you click on that link. But so the top ones I like: doctor formulated probiotics by Garden of Life would be, so actually that was created by the author of this book. He created those, so they're great for brain health too. And I like Genuine Health is another great brand. New Chapter is a good brand. What's the other one I go through? Renew Life as well are all good.
What if a person eats healthy but still gets gastric pain once in a while? How can people figure out what causes this pain periodically?
Okay, so it's so tricky. That's the thing. So I would start with an elimination diet. So ask yourself, what is the thing that you eat the most of? And start with that. So it's often people will get sensitivities to something they've overeaten. So if you eat a lot of bread, for example, try cutting out gluten for 21 days and see how you feel. And then, so the top ones that tend to create digestive dysfunction or digestive upset are gluten, dairy, eggs, and I'm forgetting one. Citrus fruits, for some reason, that one always surprises me. So I would begin with those and then just seeing how you feel.
Should we avoid coffee?
No. I love coffee. I'm such a coffee. I have to have my coffee. No, it's a great question though. So, but not all coffee is created equal. A lot of coffee has what they call mycotoxins in them, which is, it's just mold because they don't grow. They want to speed up the growth of the coffee beans. Coffee should be shade grown. but that takes a lot longer. So they cut down the trees, they spray it with pesticides, and the coffee bean then doesn't grow properly. I buy from a company called Life Boost. And so their coffee is pure and clean and actually very beneficial. So healthy coffee has been shown to really improve your gut health. So but again, you don't want to add lots of sugar to it, or, you know, those fancy coffees at Starbucks, they're no bueno.
Okay, do you have advice for suggestions for baking without sugar?
So you can use, so I've baked without sugar before and just, you know, substituted with bananas or dates. Now I suppose you could say those are sugar in some form. But I would, in my baking, usually I'll take a recipe and I cut so a lot of baking recipes call for a cup to half a cup of sugar. I usually cut it down to a quarter cup, and I use real maple syrup or coconut palm sugar or raw honey or something instead.
And I think this is the last question, just recognizing the time. What are your thoughts on the FODMAP diet for an elimination diet?
Okay, so it can be great for people suffering from a lot of like severe gut dysfunction. I have a close friend of mine who's suffering from SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and it can be very beneficial. It's very restrictive. So it's good for an elimination diet. It's just, it's hard to maintain because of how restrictive it is. That'd be my only thoughts on that.
And sorry, one more question just came in.
That's okay, that's okay.
Okay, so gluten flour is recommended for many vegan recipes because it's high in protein. So is this a no-go? Alternative proteins for vegans?
Okay, gluten flour, meaning flour that has gluten in it, I guess is what they...
Gluten flour is
So if you're going to use flour that has gluten, if I'm understanding the question properly, I would use spelt flour as instead of just regular wheat flour. And then if you're asking about, because I know that a lot of high protein flours now are like almond flour, and they've got paleo flours that are a mixture of those. Those are all fine, and those are usually no gluten in them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tara. And thank you
so
for
welcome.
all the tips and sharing the guide. I know that's going to be super helpful. Yeah, and if we can share, I think, Leanne, are you able to share Tara's social media and website and email, if that's okay with you? Then if
Yes,
anyone has
absolutely.
questions.
Yeah. Oh, please. I'm so happy to share information. Message me with any questions. I love it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tara. And thank you everyone for joining us for our AC Always Connected event. Our next AC Always Connected event is next week, and it's on Wednesday, June 24th from 12 to 1 p.m. And it's with Caleb Dahlgreen, who was a survivor from the 2018 Humboldt Broncos bus crash. So Caleb's going to be sharing his story at our Lunch and Learn. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, Tara.
Thank you.